Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future home buyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of home ownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio, and we are here. It is the NFL draft. I know, the NBA playoffs were last night, but with what's going on tomorrow night, we got to start with the NBA draft. We got to start with the NFL draft. That is an absolute must. That is definitely a must, and we're just going to get right into it. We're going to get right into it. We're going to get right into the first pick, which is very obvious. It's very, very obvious what the first pick is going to be. I think we knew this after the combine, what the Titans were going to do. It looks like they're going quarterback. And by far, by miles, the best prospect is Cam Ward. So it looks like this is pretty obvious. I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Ward has the playbook already. I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Ward already has the playbook. So this is obvious for the first pick. The draft's not going to start tomorrow until like 8:15 because we all know with the first pick, the Browns are going to take Cam Ward. No, I mean the Titans are going to take Cam Ward. So it's very obvious. And Justin, I assume you got the same. I assume you got the Titans taking Cam Ward number 1 overall.
Yeah, I got the Titans as well here. Take Cam Ward. They need the quarterback. Obviously, Will Levis ain't the guy right now, and I'm somebody thinks there's a lot of Jameson's game. He could be very volatile, but if he's on, and he's had some big performances. So Tennessee hoping to find their franchise quarterback here, Cam Ward.
Yeah, Tennessee hoping to find their first franchise quarterback for the Titans since Steve McNair. So they're really trying to find their franchise guy, and it's obvious that they are going to take Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. Now, the draft will begin at number 2. A lot of people think that the Browns, it's pretty obvious that they're going to take Travis Hunter with this pick. They think it's obvious that they're going to take Travis Hunter. There have been reports that they are fielding phone calls for this pick. They have been fielding phone calls. But at the end of the day, seeing Andrew Berry's comments last week, seeing what Andrew Berry's comments were about Travis Hunter, comparing to Ohtani, it's hard for me to see the Browns pass on Hunter. Yes, Abdul Carter is there, and that definitely could be an option as well. But I just think it's very, very hard for me to see the Browns passing on Travis Hunter. That's why with the second pick, I got the Browns drafting Travis Hunter with that pick. Justin, what do you got the Browns doing it to?
Yeah, I got the Browns going Travis Hunter here. Obviously, the two-way, the win Heisman, big two-way threat here, and if he wants to play wide receiver as well. But I have him taking the best player available, so on the board, and Travis Hunter, and I could totally see Cleveland go Carter, but I think they'll go Travis Hunter here, number 2.
Yeah. Yes. There was a lot of debate early on between Hunter and Carter. I think they're leaning more towards Hunter because of the versatility, and let's be honest, they have a better player at because they have a better. I know they got Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. Myles Garrett is obviously better than Denzel Ward, so it fills a little bit more of a need, and they need depth at receiver. He can play both ways. Yeah, just more versatile. Yeah, I definitely think Travis Hunter is the pick here, and I think for them it's smart to pass on a quarterback. And we'll talk about this when we get to the Giants because there just isn't a quarterback that's worth taking it to.
No, there's not. Sanders obviously there, but I think that's too big a risk. And then Dart's probably a later first round guy. Shuck, I know they've been getting a lot of love lately in Milrow, but like they're not going number two. Somebody had to be pretty crazy to even trade up, and nobody's trading up for those guys number two. So yeah, absolutely, yeah. The Browns need a quarterback, but there's nobody there. I don't think doesn't make too much sense to trade back. Like because Hunter could really help you at corner and wide receiver as well here. So definitely Travis Hunter is the safe bet for Cleveland.
Yeah, I would definitely go Travis Hunter. If I'm the Browns, I would definitely go Travis Hunter with this pick. Now moving on to the Giants, another team that is quarterback needy, and that is the Giants. But as we said with the Browns, there really isn't a quarterback that matches the value of this pick. And I know nothing would surprise me with this regime, but as a Giants fan, I am getting the sense they are going to go best player available here, and and that would be Abdul Carter at Penn State. That would be Abdul Carter at Penn State. I mean, he's the best edge rusher in this draft. He has potential to be a Hall of Fame edge rusher. Funny. When they did this 7 years ago, they took the Penn State guy number 2 overall. As being a Penn State and a Giant fan, I wasn't happy because I felt like they needed a quarterback, and I felt like they needed a quarterback, and the quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and Josh Allen match the value of that pick. They do need a quarterback. Don't get me wrong; they absolutely need a quarterback. But Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart do not match the value of the number 3 overall pick. I think the Giants go with the third sure thing here, and they should go with the sure thing here. I got the Giants going Abdul Carter with the number 3 overall pick out of Penn State. I got him taking Abdul Carter. Justin, what do you got the Giants doing at 3?
Yeah, absolutely. I got Abdul Carter as well going 3 here. Had great production last year at Penn State. Obviously, they made a run there in the playoffs, the semis. I know now there's rumors that maybe Thibodeau, they're fielding offers for Thibodeau, so that kind of replaces him, or again, or maybe next year you have Carter and Thibodeau on the edge, and you got 2 pretty good pass rushers. Where in a division where you just saw kind of the Eagles did with their pass rush, so
Don't forget
it's
about Brian
important to
Burns.
build it.
Don't forget about Brian
Yeah,
Burns.
Burns.
I think they're more likely to shop Thibodeau. But yeah, but I think if they take Carter, it's going to be on that defense line. It's going to be Burns, Carter, and Lawrence. Listen. They might not win a lot of games, but there'll be games where they'll be fun to watch. They'll be fun. That defensive line will be fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. The defense keep them. Defense potentially they get to the quarterbacks and keep them in some games. The offense might be hard to watch, but yeah, the defense is they're building a good defense there. And now it's I was maybe early second round. Then you go get your maybe your quarterback still sitting there that they want for the future.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, and we talked, and I said this. It is smarter than to pass on a quarterback. And you talked about the quarterback maybe being there in the second round. I would not be surprised if they trade back into the first round to get a guy, especially seeing the way this draft is going and seeing that Sanders. I mean, I know we'll see where we'll talk. We'll get to Shedeur Sanders, but there's a very good chance Sanders could drop maybe to 21 to the Steelers. So Jackson Dart might be there, in the late 20s. I would not be surprised if you see the Giants trade up, if the Giants trade back into the first round to get a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be totally surprised if they did that either. Especially if they, if they like Sanders or Dart or Shuck, if they're still on the board and they think, somebody earlier than them in the second round, or somebody else is kind of bidding to move up as well. Definitely try to get ahead of them. Especially too, because they're probably going to be more aggressive because their jobs are on the line and they don't really care about the future assets right now, especially in the draft. So yeah, maybe they give up a little more than another team and they do make that deal. So yeah, absolutely. I could totally see the Giants moving back later in the first round to try to get one of those quarterbacks.
Yeah, and Brian Daboll, I've heard reports Brian Daboll wants a quarterback. He wants a quarterback, in this draft. Daboll wants a guy. So yeah, I would not be surprised at all if they move up to take a quarterback. I just think there's no way they're going to take one at 3 because, as I said earlier, it doesn't match the value of the pick. It doesn't match the value of the pick. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants do here, but we both got them taking Abdul Carter with the number 3 overall pick. Now, moving on to your Patriots with the number 4 overall pick. I mean, for me, I know Will Campbell is not the best player available. I think Ashton Jeanty and Mason Graham are definitely better players, but the left tackle position for the Patriots is a massive, massive need. And if you look at the other 2 positions too, they got 2 running backs from Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson that could do the job. And at defensive tackle, they paid $26 million to Milton Williams in free agency. They still Christian Barmore is they're getting Christian Barmore back. So I think left tackle is going to be the pick here. I think left tackle is going to should be the pick, and it's going to be the pick. And that's why with the 4th overall pick, I got the Patriots taking Will Campbell out of LSU. Justin, what do you got the Patriots doing at number 4?
Yeah, I got him going Will Campbell here as well. I wouldn't be total. I hope a little bit maybe they move back a spot or two, because you could probably still get him maybe before the Jets. But I don't know if that's totally going to happen right now. So I'll take Will Campbell. You mentioned it. The left tackle position is a big hole, and I know with the short arms he has, maybe he moves the guard in a couple years, which you're not usually picking a guard number 4 in the draft. I know, but I do think he's the best offensive lineman available here. They need to build that thing up. I know McMillan too, but I just have a fear they have not picked wide receivers in the draft very well of late.
Oh, historically bad picking wide receivers.
Yeah, so I have a fear of them picking a wide receiver, and I know it's a different regime, but I do think Will Campbell, because they do have to build up that offensive line here, and hopefully Will Campbell's the start of it.
Yeah, well, yeah. And you mentioned about trading back, and yeah, say because say like the Raiders, because there's now talk that the Jags want because Genty is the odds-on favorite for the Jags to take him at 5, but say like the Raiders want Genty too. So say maybe the Raiders go from 6 to 4 to get Genty, and maybe you get maybe an extra second round pick, and then move back and still get Will Campbell. That would be a great scenario for you guys, because Will Campbell. Is it a little bit of a reach? Yes. But at that position, that's one of the most important positions on the field. I feel like you have to reach a little bit to get the guy you want. So, but say you could trade back and get additional picks and still get Will Campbell, that'd be great for you guys.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be the ideal scenario, I think, for every Patriot fan right now. Because there's still holes that they need to fill, and that again, second round, and you get another second round pick here, which would be great. Maybe then you go to the wide receiver spot. Maybe it's not a ton of depth at the offensive lineman. Maybe you go back and get another offensive lineman. So there's a couple different options they could go there. So yeah, I would not mind them trading back a couple spots. For even with the Raiders, because I do think the Jets would probably take him at 7 if Campbell's on the board still. So I'd love to see them move back a spot or two there.
Yeah, that'd be a great situation for the Patriots to see if they move back a spot. But it'll be interesting to see. Interesting to see what they do. But if nobody trades, if there's no trade, I'm pretty convinced they are going to go Will Campbell there. I'm pretty convinced with their hole at left tackle that they are going to go Will Campbell with the number 4 overall pick. Now moving on to the Jaguars in number 5, there is a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk out there about Ashton Genty and the Jags, and he is now he has the best odds to go number 5 overall to the Jags. But looking at the Jags roster, they got 2 running backs with Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne on that run. I know it's a new regime. I get it's a new regime. They were not drafted by the new GM, new head coach, the new regime, but they still have 2 running backs in their roster. And they have a massive hole at defensive tackle, and their defense was terrible last year. They were 32nd in pass D, 31st in total defense. So I think they got to take a defensive player here. And Mason Graham is at this point in the draft is clearly the best defensive player there. That's why I got the Jaguars going Mason Graham with the number 5 overall pick. Justin, what do you got the Jags doing at 5?
Yeah, I got the Jags going Mason Graham as well here. Yeah, you mentioned it. They got a big hole there at defense tackle. I think Mason Graham's got a huge floor too as a prospect, and he's got a pretty high motor there, high effort player, which I think the Jags could really use. And yeah, because their defense was not very good last year, so I got Mason Graham. Yeah, the best defense player available on the board at number 5, and I think Jacksonville goes Mason Graham here.
All righty, we'll go to number 6 with the Raiders. And the Raiders have a bunch of needs. They have a bunch of needs. But the Raiders, I know this is high to take a running back, but the Raiders, 32nd in the worst rushing team in football last year. They have a massive hole at the running back position. Ashton Genty, it's really the 2 best players at that stage in the draft for me are Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren. The top 2 players in the draft. Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren. They already got arguably the best tight end in football in Brock Bowers, so they won't go tight end. So I hear the Marshawn Lynch comparisons. Pete Carroll had Marshawn Lynch in Seattle. For me, I'm feeling like they're going to go Genty here. The Raiders are going to go Ashton Genty here. I got the Raiders taking Genty with the 6th overall pick. Justin, what do you got the Raiders doing at 6?
I got the Raiders going Genty as well here. Yeah, Pete Carroll loves his running backs. The Raiders don't, that's a pretty big hole for him. They could not run the football last year. He's impossible to kind of those Marshawn Lynch comparisons there. He's impossible to kind of take down on first contact there. So he's not great receiving on the backfield, but the Raiders definitely need somebody that could establish to help out that running game because it was abysmal last year. I know their offensive line is a big need too here, but I see them going running back here with Genty.
Yeah. I think that at this stage in the draft, you're a bad team like the Raiders, got a new coach, new GM. I can go with the best player available. And I know it's high to take a running back, but the running backs had big years in 2024, and Ashton Genty, to me, is the best player available for the Raiders there. So that's why I got the Raiders taking a running back in Ashton Genty at 6. Now moving on to the Jets at 7. And you look at the Jets, yes, they need a tackle, but to me, they're another team that's in a rebuild, and the best player out there is Tyler Warren. And last year, I know it's a new regime, but last year they passed on tight end Brock Bowers to take Old-Fashioned, and Brock Bowers was the best tight end in football. And in my mock draft, I hadn't taken Brock Bowers too, and ended up taking Old-Fashioned. Now they needed a tackle, I get it, but Brock Bowers is a phenomenal player. I think they're going to go with best player available here. It's tough. It's between the tackle and between the tight end. It's tough, but I think they're going to go with the best player available here. And with the 7th pick, I got the Jets taking Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I think this guy is going to be one of the top tight ends in the league right away. Guy's a phenomenal player. I think this could be a slam dunk pick for the Jets. The Jets need another weapon outside of Garrett Wilson. Take some pressure off of Garrett Wilson. I think this could be the guy. I got the Jets going Tyler Warren with the number 7 overall pick. Justin, what do you got the Jets doing at 7? And here's the thing. It looks like we didn't copy off each other because this pick looks like it's different.
Yeah, we finally disagree on one. I got them going back to the old line like they did last year. I got them getting Armin Mambo from Missouri, the offensive tackle. I definitely could see them getting another weapon, but I think they want to continue to build that offensive line. It still was kind of an issue last year for them. And then that would kind of solidify hopefully for the future their 2 tackles. So I got the Jets here going back, grabbing another offensive lineman here, trying to really fix that offensive line, which they've been trying to do here for quite a while. So I got him go and get the tackle out of Missouri.
Yeah, to me, it's pretty much, I think it's going to be a tight end. It's going to be Warren or an offensive lineman. I think definitely going to be an offensive lineman. The Jets' offensive line has been a mess for a while. Yeah, I do think. And they lost, and then Tyron Smith retired. Morgan Moses got signed with the Patriots. They took Fashanu with their first-round pick last year, but yeah, I could very easily see them going O-line again there. I see them going O-line again. I just think with where they're at in their regime, I think they go best player available, but I could also see them going offensive line there. But moving on to the Panthers with the number 8 overall pick. This is also a team with needs, but I'm more confident with them right now on the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball. Their defense was really bad last year, one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. And how do you make a bad defense good? Getting an edge rusher. And for the 8th pick, I got them taking Jalen Walker out of Georgia. The first team All SEC last year, had 6 sacks. A team that's in desperate need of an edge rusher with Carolina, desperate need of a big-time defensive players. I mean, J.C. Horn is good. They got Meringue in free agency, but a team that's desperate for good defensive players in a big year for this regime. This is a big year for Bryce Young and Dave Canales and Dan Morgan. This is a big year for this regime. They got to win more games. They got to win more than 5 games. I think they got to be competing for that NFC South with the Bucs and with the Falcons. So this is a big year for those guys. They definitely got to be better. We saw their offense. We saw how we saw the improvement of their offense in the second half of the year last year. They put up 36 against Arizona. They put up 44 in that last game against the Falcons. We saw the improvement of the offense. They definitely have to improve the defense, though, and I think this is the first step in doing that, going out and drafting Jalen Walker out of Georgia. Justin, what do you get the Panthers doing at 8?
Yeah, I got him getting Jalen Walker as well here out of Georgia. The linebacker / edge hybrid guy. And, can line up a couple different spots. Probably play like off-ball linebacker. Could be an edge guy as well. yeah, and you mentioned their defense was pretty bad last year. They really need help on that end of the football still, and going young here with Jalen Walker, I think would be a good pick for Carolina here. Get another pass rusher, to add to that defense because that's we've kind of seen the last couple of years, especially that Philly team. You kind of want to build it. You kind of want the edge guys. You want to build it from you really want to build those lines on both sides of the ball, and Carolina doing this here with Walker.
Yeah, and Carolina, they built the offensive line. Now they got to build the defensive line. So yeah, I think Walker would be a really, really good pick for the Panthers at 8. Now going to number 9, this is a potential Shedeur Sanders spot, and I had Shedeur Sanders going here for a couple weeks, because I didn't think the Saints would go with Jake Hayner or Spencer Rattler, going into the season with those two quarterbacks. But it looks like the Saints are going to pass. From what I've been seeing, I look like the Saints are going to pass on a quarterback here. It looks like the Saints are going to pass on a quarterback here, and that's why I got them going edge rusher. And this guy this is more of a potential than a production pick because he wasn't first team All SEC, he was second team All SEC. I'm going to go with Michael Williams here. I'm going with Michael Williams. I know you have this guy a lot lower in the draft, but I'm going to go with Michael Williams here. I'm going Michael Williams because I look at the Saints defensive line. Cam Jordan's getting old. Chase Young, is he really? He's at this point in his career, he's average at best. Same with Granderson. I'm going to again. This is another defense that is starting to. Guys are starting to get old on that defense. Jordan, Demario Davis, guys are starting to get. They traded Marshawn Lattimore last year. Guys are starting to get old on that defense. I'm gonna go with the guy with high upside. I'm going Michael Williams here to be the pick for the Saints at 9. Justin, what do you got the Saints doing at 9?
Yeah, I do have still getting Shedeur Sanders, at quarterback here from Colorado. I could easily see him going defense because there's a lot of holes there, but Kellen Moore coming in, wanting that long-term quarterback that he wants to develop here. I do think Shedeur improved every year under center, at Jackson State and even Colorado last year, completed over 70% of his passes. He's got pretty good arm strength. Could hold on the ball too long there, but and I think he's in big spots. He's very, he stays calm and collected, and is good in kind of those critical moments. So I do have the Saints going with Shedeur Sanders here, but wouldn't be shocked if they go defense either because there's a lot of holes there. They could, that they could go improve on there.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I had Shedeur Sanders until Monday. Then I heard a report from Schefter that they were probably not going to take a quarterback in this spot. But you never know. It could be a smokescreen. It could very, very easily be a smokescreen to get, it could very, very easily be a smokescreen to get a team maybe to trade up. So you never know. You never know what could happen. But yeah. I don't have them taking quarterback here from the reports I've heard this week. But going back to Shedeur Sanders, and this is the big question everyone's asked before the draft, and we'll talk about it here because you have Sanders going 9 to the Saints. If Shedeur Sanders' last name wasn't Sanders, would he be a first-round pick? In my opinion, he would be. He'd be a late first-round pick. I think he's really good at the line of scrimmage. I'll give him that. He's good at the line of scrimmage. But athleticism not great, arm strength not great. I would say a late first-round pick if his last name wasn't Sanders. Justin, if Shedeur's last name wasn't Sanders, would you think would he be a first-round pick?
I'd be more on the side of he's probably a day 2 quarterback, probably a second rounder, maybe even an early third. I think with him, because he's not a great athlete. He is very good, in the pocket. He's very good pre-snap. But I just think, sometimes he just takes too many unnecessary hits at times. He does hold on the ball too long. I would probably go more of a day 2 guy than day 1, but I still think he's a solid quarterback, and you kind of tell that he worked with Brady in high school because he does kind of have some of the similar traits in him. But I would probably have him more as like a second round pick.
Yeah, I'd say late first. Desperation of the position, and he does have he's a little. The problem is he's a little. Obviously he's cocky because of his dad, who his dad is, but he does have the football IQ. I will give him that. He has the football IQ. I think the arm strength though, and the arm strength and the ability could be an issue because he has to have a really good offensive line. And in this league, yeah, you have to have a good offensive line, but you also got to play with the way offensive line play is today. It's not as good as it used to be. You still got to have a good offensive line. Don't get me wrong. It's not as good as it used to be. You got to be able to play in muddy pockets. My concern for him is lack of arm strength and how is he going to play in a muddy pocket. So I think it's the second best quarterback in the draft class, but if his last name wasn't Sanders, I would definitely think he would clearly be taken late in the first round. I clearly think he'd be taken late in the first round. And this quarterback class is not good at all. Seeing that, 3 quarterback needy teams, the Browns, Giants, and Saints are all passing on quarterback, and the Jets are all passing on quarterback. So it shows you what people think about this quarterback class. But moving on to number 10, and that is the Bears. And this could potentially be like maybe a trade down spot for the Bears, because I don't know if the Bears are in love with anyone at this spot, because I think the two guys the Bears are kind of in love with are Tyler Warren and Ashton Genty, and I think they're definitely in love with Ashton Genty. But I think those guys are going to be gone. I made a pick here. This is a pick I'm not the most confident in. I made it more because of need. I think it's a little bit of a reach. I made it more because they need depth at this spot. I'm going to go James Pierce out of Tennessee, just because you look at their defensive line. They need some depth. Outside of Montez Sweat, they need depth in the defensive line. And James Pierce, yes, effort, as you would know, effort was probably a concern with him last year, but he still has a lot of upside. So with that pick, I would go James Pierce out of Tennessee. Justin, what do you got the Bears doing at 10?
For me, I got him going Tyler Warren out of tight end out of Penn State here. I think, with Ben Johnson's new, coming in here, he loved to do the 2 tight end sets with, when he's the OC with the Lions here, so they'd have him and the Cole Kmet here, and he's a mismatch nightmare. As a Penn State guy, he could line up tight end. They'll line him up in the slot. They'd even line him up in the backfield a couple times. So he's very versatile, and I think Ben Johnson would love to kind of add a weapon like that. I could see them going O-line. I could go see him add another pass rush here. But I think if Tyler Warren's still on the board here, I think I think Ben Johnson would have a hard time passing him off just because of the different uniqueness of Tyler Warren here, and with the way he could use him.
Yeah. I could definitely see Tyler Warren. If he's there, I probably would have Tyler Warren going there. Or if Ashton Genty's there, I definitely have Ashton Genty going there. I just think those two guys are going to be gone, and I could see the Bears trading down. I could see maybe, and Peter Schrager had this, I could see a team like Indy who really wants a weapon offensively, maybe trade up for like a maybe a Cooper Loveland. I could see that happen. I could see an Indy trading up, but yeah, I think that because of a little bit of a needed edge rusher, I go James Pierce there at number 10 for the Bears. Now moving on to the Niners at number 11, and they got some needs. They got some needs because they had a terrible offseason. They lost a bunch of guys. Lost Tuiafunga to Denver. They lost Greenlaw to Denver. They lost Tre'Davious Ward to the Colts. They lost Javon Hargrave to the Vikings. They lost Thunder Floyd to the Falcons. They lost a bunch of guys at 49ers. They had a really, really bad free agency. They had a really bad offseason. Probably saving money to try to give Brock Purdy, $60 million a year. It looks like with seeing what's going on there. But for them, it was tough. It was tough for me. I could have went edge, but because of what they lost in the secondary, they lost 2 stars. They lost Tre'Davious Ward. They lost Tuiafunga. I went cornerback here, and outside of Travis Hunter, to me, the best cornerback out there is Jahdae Barrett, won the Jim Thorpe Award, first-team All-American. Will Johnson's close, but he's coming off the injury. But to me, Jahdae Barrett was the best corner out there, and that's why with the 11th pick, I got the Niners taking Jahdae Barrett out of Texas. Justin, what do you got the Niners doing at 11?
I got him going defense here, but I got him going edge with Mike Green out of Marshall.
Good one. I like that one.
Yeah. He had 17 sacks last year. Led the country in sacks, but I think the downside was last year was really his one big year of production. So we'll see kind of how he kind of translates to the NFL. But he had an awesome year, and I think with the Niners needing a need in mentioned a couple spots here, I could see them going getting one of the best kind of edge rushers still on the board in Mike Green.
Yeah, I like Mike Green. Led the nation in sacks. Yeah, they definitely need help on their defensive line. Led the nation in sacks. That would be a good pick for the Niners at 11. Now moving on to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys got needs. So I would be surprised if they traded back from 12s because they have needs. They got they got some needs. They got needs on the offensive line with Zach Martin retiring. I think they got needs on the defensive line with DeMarcus Lawrence. I know they got Dante Fowler, but DeMarcus Lawrence going to Seattle. They obviously have need depth at the receiver position. But if you look at, I think it comes down to helping Dak Prescott offensive line or a receiver. But if you look at their offensive line, I think they're going to really bank on Tyler Guyton. The Dallas Cowboys are a team that relies on their draft picks. There's not a team in the NFL that relies more on their draft picks than the Cowboys. I think they're going to rely on Tyler Guyton to take the next step this year. I think what they're going to do is they're going to improve their depth in the receiving corps. If you look at the receiving corps right now, really their pass catchers right now, outside of CeeDee Lamb, it's Jake Ferguson, who's average. You have Cavante Turpin, who's a better special teams guy than he is a receiver, and Jalen Tolbert. So they don't have any depth at the wide receiver position. And that's why I got them taking the best receiver on the board. I got them going Tet McMullen, the big body guy, they got a lot of comparisons to Drake London and Mike Evans, the big body receiver, Tet McMillan out of Arizona. Justin, what do you got the Cowboys doing at 12?
Yeah, same pick here with McMillan at the wide receiver spot. Dallas kind of adds their number 2 wide receiver there to put alongside CeeDee Lamb, give Dak Prescott another weapon. I thought about Matthew Golden out of Texas. Was another guy I was thinking about going here. But I think McMillan is the best guy on the board here. Led the country to over 3,000 yards last year. So, and he's got potential to be a number 1 wide receiver. Down the line here as well. So I got McMillan going number 12 to Dallas as well.
Yeah. That would be good for the Cowboys. That would be a good one for the Cowboys. I definitely could see the Cowboys going with McMillan at 12. Now at number 13 with the Dolphins, they got some needs now, especially with players that quote unquote want out of there. It's a kind of a mess in Miami right now. It is kind of a mess. As a Patriot fan, you're ready. You've got a good feeling you might finish in second in the division. Seeing how much of a mess it is in Miami right now. Tyreek Hill reportedly wanted out. Jalen Ramsey definitely wants out. So you could look at receiver and corner as a need, but they had all offensive line issues last year, and their best offensive lineman just retired in Tyron Armstead. And here's the thing: Tua has had a ton of issues staying healthy. I just think they got to go offensive line here. Miami's got to go offensive line here. And yes, this guy has kind of been a guy we really didn't hear about much during the season, but we really didn't hear about much till after the combine. But he has definitely risen up draft boards. But with the 13th pick for me, and you got him going 7 to the Jets, I got Armand Membu going to the Dolphins with that pick. Justin, what do you got the Dolphins doing at 13?
Yeah, I got him going off the line here. I got him going Calvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, guy that could play either the left tackle spot or guard, depending where Miami wants to put him. Obviously you mentioned it. Miami, with Armstead retiring, the offensive line's been kind of a concern. They're desperate in need of kind of a couple of reinforcements there. So I got Banks going there. And obviously with the injury concerns with Tua, definitely going off of the line here to kind of help the guy that you just spent a lot of money to last offseason. Want to kind of keep on the field. So going Banks here, I think help start that starts to get that going.
Yeah, if you're going to pay Tua all that money, you got to protect him. Now, but at the end of the day, I think this is probably going to be the final. This could be the final draft for Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier, especially for Chris Grier. He's been there for a while and not won a playoff game. This could be the final draft for Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel if things go wrong this season in Miami. Now, moving on to another team, which the head coach and GM are on the hot seat, and that's Indianapolis. That's with the Colts. And a lot of things that are going to depend on Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen keeping their job is if Anthony Richardson can play. Because Anthony Richardson, he showed some flashes at times last year, but he has not been good. But overall, he's not been good in his first 2 years. He's not been able to stay healthy in his first 2 years. So the Colts really need to get a guy that can help him. I feel like they need to get a guy that can help him. And that's why, with the 14th overall pick, I got the Colts taking Cooper Loveland out of Michigan. Guys, second best tight end in the draft. Yes, he was second. He wasn't first team All Big Ten. He was second team All Big Ten. But a big reason for that is Tyler Warren was in his conference, and the quarterback play at Michigan last year was absolutely horrendous. So with the 14th pick, I got the Colts going Cooper Loveland. Justin, what do you got the Colts doing at 14?
I got them building up their tearing off at the line here in Tyler Booker, the junior out of Bama. I think he's somebody that he's a really good pass blocker right now, and he's got to develop a little bit more as a pass protector, but I think right now he's really good, in the run game. And he's somebody too. You've heard too, good captain. He's a leader on the field, so somebody could come in the locker room right away and be kind of a leader. So I got the Colts. I know they could go weapon here, but I got him building up the offensive line there. With Tyler Booker.
Yeah, I definitely see him building up the line. They lost a couple linemen, and they lost Will Fries and Ryan, and especially on the interior. They still got Quentin Nelson, but they lost a couple linemen to free agency. They lost Ryan Kelly and Will Fries in free agency. So yeah, I definitely can see him going offensive line. A little bit of a reach, I think, with Tyler Booker, but it may not be because I saw Strager's draft today. He's got the Cowboys going with Booker at 12, so Booker's rising up there. So yeah, I definitely could see the Colts going O line, but I just think they just need this year is so much about Anthony Richardson. They brought in competition with Daniel Jones. This year is so much about Anthony Richardson. That's why I think they get him a weapon and Cooper Loveland at that spot. Now moving on to the Falcons at 15. And the Falcons have needed an edge for a couple of years now. And the last 2 years they had a very good chance to take a defensive lineman. 2 years ago they had a good chance to take Jalen Carter, but they took Bijan Robinson last year. They passed on Jared Verse and Dallas Turner to get Michael Penix. So in this draft, you look at this team, edge is a big need, and I think the Falcons do it here. I think the Falcons with the 15th pick who you got going to the 49ers. I got Mike Green, the guy who led the nation in sacks, going to the Falcons at 15. I got him going to the Falcons with the 15th overall pick. I think they desperately need an edge rusher, and he had 17, led the nation in sacks last year, so I got him going there. But Justin, what do you got the Falcons doing at 15?
Yeah, I got him going pass rusher as well here with James Pierce, the junior out of Tennessee here. Yeah, they need another pass rusher. I know they signed Leonard Floyd, but obviously, to get a younger guy in there, they really struggled last year. Like even Judon, wasn't what they expected, I felt like. So somebody really explosive guy could get out to the quarterback. That's something the Falcons, yeah, as you mentioned, they really need the last couple of years, and obviously their drafts have, they've taken some strange turns in the first round the last couple of years.
Yes.
So we'll see this
Yes,
year if they kind of go on track and get the guy that they actually really need.
Yeah, you never know what Terry Font knew. Now, he was heavily criticized for Penix last year. Looks like it's working out because he played pretty well those 3 games. But yeah, you never know what Terry Font knew. He just made some strange moves in the draft. Moving on to 16, and that is the Cardinals. And at this stage, I think they take the best player available at 16. And the best, he's coming off an injury, but the best guy out there, and they need a corner, is Will Johnson. Out of Michigan. Here's the crazy thing about Will Johnson. I mean, he was a stud in 2023, but even last year, he missed half the year. He was still a second team All Big Ten, still second team All American. So the guy is I think outside of Hunter and Barron, the third best corner in this draft. And with the 16th pick, I got the Cardinals taking Will Johnson out of Michigan. Justin, what do you got the Cards doing at 16?
Yeah, same pick here. Got Will Johnson. I know the injury concerns coming off of last year, missed some time because going into the year, people probably, had him kind of being a top 10 pick and maybe the first corner off the board. So, I know he didn't do a ton at the combine. I know maybe there's some hesitance there probably, but I think Will Johnson's definitely is a good get here for Arizona. As you mentioned, they definitely need to add some secondary pieces here. Will Johnson's a good start to it.
All right, we'll go number 17 to the Bengals. And seeing the, Trey Hendrickson rumor, seeing how bad their defense was last year. And again, like I said with the Panthers, if you want to improve your defense, get an edge rusher. And I know this guy, you're going kind of, you got to know who I'm talking about here now. You're going, potential over production. But at this stage, he played in the SEC. I'm going to go with, correct me if I'm wrong, Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M with this pick for the Bengals. I think they need an edge rusher, and I think this, especially if they have to trade Hendrickson, I think this would be the right move for the Bengals here at 17. Justin, what do you got the Bengals doing at 17?
I got them going, defensive line here as well, but with Derek Harmon, the defense tackle out of Oregon, he's really good at stopping the run. He's even pretty good at getting to the quarterback as a rusher. So, I obviously the Bengals, the toughness hasn't been there, especially last year. They really, they weren't great at stopping the run either. They were really, really good at anything defensively last year. So I think, Harmon could come in, bring a more physical, mentality to that defense here. So I got him with going with Derek Harmon out of Oregon.
Yeah, that'd be a good pick. Derek Harmon. Anywhere on the defensive line, Bengals, that would be a good pick. Yeah, Derek Harmon had a really good year at Oregon last year. So yeah, I mean that would be a good pick there for the Bengals. Now moving on to number 18 and the Seahawks, and Pro Football Focus at the Seahawks as the 31st ranked offensive line. The only offensive line that was worse, I think we kind of know, was the Patriots last year. They had the 31st ranked offensive line in the NFL. And really outside of Charles Cross's offensive line is terrible. And Sam Darnold, we know Sam Darnold, he has a bad offensive line. He really struggles. He really does. So Sam Darnold kind of needs a good offensive line to succeed. That's why I got them taking a tackle here. And Calvin Banks, a first team All SEC left tackle here. I got the Seahawks with the 18th pick going Calvin Banks out of Texas. Justin, what do you got the Seahawks doing at 18?
I got him going offense here as well, but I got to get him Luther Burden. They lost Metcalf, obviously. They needed another wide receiver to go along with Jackson Smith, the Jibba. And I got him going Burden, somebody that kind of could help out Sam Darnold. Obviously, the offensive line, I kind of went back and forth with this one. But I think, maybe, with Burden's on the board, people kind of thought maybe he could be like a top 10 pick before the season. So I went with Burden here to add to that wide receiver room.
Yeah. That's a good one getting Bird. Yeah, because they lost DK, they lost Lockett. I know they got Cooper Kupp. They lost DK, they lost Lockett. Yeah, you definitely want a receiver to add to that room. I just felt, though, I know they have Abraham Lucas, but he hasn't played that well. They need more help on the offensive line, in my opinion. That's why I had them taking Kelvin Banks with that pick. Now, with the 19th overall pick, that is going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, to me, I think where they're lacking is on the edge rusher. I know they got Hassan Reddick, but Diaby's been up and down. For me, I think they need another edge rusher. And correct me if I'm wrong with this pronunciation. I got them taking the ACC Player of the Year. He had 16.5 sacks last year. I got them with going Devon Ezeraku. Did I get it right? For like close?
I believe so, yes. I believe so, yeah.
Devon Ezeraku, the ACC Player of the Year, Devon Ezeraku out of BC. I got them taking him with the 19th pick. I think the Bucs need an edge, and I think this is. I know Todd Bowles likes to blitz a lot. I get it, but I think they need an edge rusher so they don't have to blitz as much. So I'm going with Devon Ezeraku out of BC for the Bucs at 19. Justin, what do you got the Bucs doing at 19?
I got a little linebacker with Jahad Campbell out of Bama here. I think he fits exactly kind of what Todd Bowles kind of wants. Somebody that can get to the quarterback. He can be tricked a little bit during play action, but he's a really solid tackler. And I think, he could be a really good third down linebacker, especially if you want to blitz and get to the quarterback. Because maybe this could be Lamont David's last year. So maybe kind of Campbell turns into that to his replacement here.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah, Levante David's get up there in years. Yeah, I definitely think Jahad Campbell could definitely fit on that defense. Now going to number 20, and pretty much a lot of people have the same pick here for the Broncos, and it makes a ton of sense seeing that McLaughlin is their only running back. And really, this is a team with not that many holes anymore. I mean, yeah, depth at receivers a little bit of a hole, but really good offensive line. Probably one of the top 5 offensive lines in the league. You got Bulls, you got McGlinchey, you got one of their guards last year played really well. Defense. Really, really good defense. Really good defense. And it really stepped up on the defensive side of the ball last year. But I think the issue with this team is they lost Javonte Williams, so they need more depth in the running back room. And Bo Nix is a really good quarterback off play action. I think it'll really help him to have a running game. That's why with the 20th overall pick, I got the Broncos taking Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina. Justin, what do you got the Broncos doing at 20?
Yeah, same pick here as well with Hampton. Guy who went over 3,000 yards last year. And he's a reliable pass catcher as well. Right now the Broncos don't have somebody in that room that had over 600 rushing yards last year. So, and he's also a decent pass protector if you want him in that situation as well. So I think, I think Gente's the better running back, but I think overall running back, I think he's the best one in this draft. With his pass catching ability, with him being a decent pass protector as well here. So I got Denver going with Hampton here at running back.
I definitely see I definitely could see the Broncos going with Hampton. Now we get to another potential quarterback spot, and that's with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and a potential spot for Shedeur Sanders. And for me, this is where it happens for Shedeur. This is where it happens. I think he's the second best quarterback in the class. I think the Steelers, they got to stop waiting on Aaron Rodgers. They got to stop waiting on him. I think this is it. This is the move. This is the place where Shedeur Sanders goes. I think he's got a pretty good roster around him. This is the best chance, really, outside of, let's be honest, outside of the Browns, the Saints, the Giants. This is by far the best. I know the Steelers don't have an amazing roster, but this is by far the spot where he's going to succeed. The Steelers, they went out, they got a wide receiver, gave up a second, gave up a two, and paid $30 million to DK Metcalf. They still got George Pickens. This is, to me, this is the spot. This is the spot for Shedeur Sanders. I feel like this is the spot. And with the 21st pick, it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I got the Steelers taking Shedeur Sanders at 21. Justin, the big question for you: you have Shedeur Sanders going 9. Do you have the Steelers taking a quarterback at 21?
Yeah, I do as well here. I got Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. Again, even if they get Rodgers eventually, who knows? Like, you still need another guy in that room, when Rodgers retires. So he played a lot of football in Ole Miss, 3-year starter, but in a heavy RPO system. So, like, he didn't have a ton of extensive reads. And he'll take some unnecessary risk here. And Lane Kiffin really schemes a lot of things up for you. So, I know there's some worries about that, but I think Jackson Dart could potentially be an NFL franchise quarterback for somebody. And I think he goes here with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, the big question is it a guarantee the Steelers are going quarterback here? Is it a guarantee the Steelers are going quarterback here? And I think it is. Right now, they're the favorite to land Shedeur Sanders. And I think Shedeur Sanders is going to fall here. But I just think with the situation the Steelers have, they're not going to pay DK Metcalf $30 million a year, give up a second-round pick, and have Mason Rudolph be their starter. We've seen that movie before. I definitely think it's going to be. I definitely think this is a spot for a quarterback, and they're not going to wait on Aaron. They're done. It feels like they're done waiting on Aaron Rodgers. I think the Steelers are definitely taking a quarterback at 21. If it's Dart or Sanders, no matter if it's Dart or Sanders, they're taking a quarterback at 21.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rodgers stuff. Rodgers loves to, really make things by himself, and he's gonna take his time and say what he wants. And yeah, you still need somebody, even if you eventually get Rodgers. But yeah, it's a big year for the Steelers. They gotta try to get at least one win in the playoffs. It feels like 2, and you just gave DK Metcalf all that money. You do need somebody to throw the ball to, and yeah, Rudolph's not not a starting quarterback in the NFL. So they definitely need somebody. It really feels like they are going to go quarterback here, unless even if Rodgers, you got to have somebody ready in the wings when Rodgers, retires.
I think you have to have someone in the wings, and I just don't think they're going to wait on him. I think they're done waiting on Aaron Rodgers. I think they're moving on. I think they're taking Shedeur Sanders with this pick. You got him taking Jackson Dart. So we'll see what happens with the Steelers. Very interesting spot. Probably one of the most interesting spots tomorrow night in the draft is going to be at 21 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now moving on to number 22 and the Chargers. You look at the Chargers, they might go receiver here, could go defensive. It's really between receiver and defensive line for me. I'm going to go D-line. Because they're thin on the D-line outside of Joey Bosa, and that's why with the 22nd pick, I got them taking Walter Nolan, a really good player out of Ole Miss last year at 6.5 sacks. Really good player. I got them taking Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss with that pick. Justin, who do you got the Chargers taking at 22?
I got him team up with a former Michigan player for Harbaugh, and that's Colson Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. Harbaugh used him. Yeah, he used them a lot. I know they do need another tight end on their roster. They just need a pass catcher too in general. He's got to become a better run blocker. He's got to put some mass on to kind of get that. But I think here, Harbaugh really loved him in college. I could see if he's still available there. Harbaugh jumping on the opportunity to coach him yet again.
Yeah, I definitely. But yeah, if Cooper Loveland's there, I could very easily see him taking him because again, they need another pass catcher outside of Ladd McConkey, who had a really good rookie year. Ladd McConkey had a really good rookie year, but I feel like they need another pass catcher. You saw Justin Herbert in the playoffs; he was terrible in that game. They need another pass catcher because Quentin Johnston, he's been terrible. He's not stepped up at all. So they need another pass catcher, and I think that guy is Colt. is Colston Loveland. And I think I called him Cooper. It's really Colston Loveland. That was my bad earlier, but it's Colston Loveland out of Michigan. So yeah, I could definitely see Colston Loveland out of Michigan going number 22 to the Chargers if he falls from Indy's spot at 14. Now at 23, we got the Packers, and I think the Packers. I think a big D line you could say is definitely a need. I think they need some depth in the D line. They're pretty good on the offensive side of the ball. I think they're fine on that side, but the defensive side of the ball, I think they need some help. And there's a lot of rumors that Jari Alexander, he could be traded, during the draft, could get traded. So that's why I'm gonna go corner here for them. I'm gonna go corner. I'm gonna go with Maxwell Hairston because there are Jalen Ramsey rumors as well with the Packers. He's been linked to the Packers too. But I'm going to go with Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. That's my pick for the Packers at 23. Justin, what do you got the Packers doing at 23?
Yeah, I'm going corner here too. Trey Amos from another Ole Miss guy here. I think the Packers. They trade Alexander. They need another guy in the secondary. He's got really good ball skills. So a couple of 3 interceptions last year. So, and I think that the athleticism too to kind of live on the outside as a corner as well. So I got him going Amos here at Ole Miss.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Packers going corner at 23. Now moving on to their division rival, the Minnesota Vikings, at 24. And for me, I think there's a hole at safety. There's a hole at safety with Cameron Bynum leaving and Harrison Smith getting up there in age. And again, another pronunciation I might need your help on here. But I'm going to go with the first team All-SEC guy. I'm going to go with the guy from South Carolina, Nick. Did I get this one? Let me see if I get this one right. Amamori. Did I get it? Was I close?
Yeah, you're pretty close. Yeah,
you're pretty close. Nick Amamori.
Yeah,
Nick Amamori out of South Carolina. I got him going 24 to the Vikings. Justin, who you got the Vikings taking at 24?
Yeah, I got the same pick here as well with Nick Amamori. The Vikings definitely could use some more athleticism on the back end. He's a physical safety. He's a reliable tackler. He might struggle a little bit to stay with slot wide receivers at the NFL level. But yeah, the Vikings need some more definitely on the back end, and I think he's a good pick here for Minnesota.
Now moving on to number 25 and the Texans. And the Texans probably made the most puzzling move of the offseason, trading Laramie Tunsil when their offensive line was absolutely terrible. That's why I think they just have, and as you said earlier with the Patriots. Now the Patriots aren't this. I think this is kind of a reach, but at this position they have to because they got a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud, and they traded their by far their best offensive lineman to the Commander. To me, that made no sense at all. But that's why I got them going tackle here, and I got him going. A lot of people think this guy might be a price. Probably this could be a little bit of a reach here. I'm kind of overvaluing him here, but I got Josh Simmons out of Ohio State going here for the Texans at 25. I think it's a little bit of a reach for the Texans need a tackle. Justin, what do you got the Texans doing at 25?
Yeah, I got him going Simmons 2 here. I know he played in 6 games this year, but in those 6 games didn't allow one pressure and clearly didn't allow a sack. So, coming off a major knee injury is concerning. But I think he's somebody that's that could come in and help that Texans offensive line because it was bad last year. They had one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and I think he's somebody too that's ready to kind of start. Day one if he's healthy, and Houston really needs help up front, and I think Josh Simmons can provide that for him.
Yeah, we'll see. Did he play in the national title game last year, Simmons?
No, he was out. He only played like 6 games last year.
No, no wonder why Abdul Carter had a day against Ohio State last year. He had a day.
But, they were down to 3rd. I think their backup was there too in that game. Yeah.
But unfortunately, we couldn't score on 4 plays from like the 2-yard line against them last year. But that's another story for another day. But we'll move on to the Rams, and this could very easily be a trade-up spot for a team like the Giants, for a team like the Giants, the Browns, or the Saints to get a Jackson Dart. This could be a trade-up spot. But I don't do trades in my mock draft, so I'm gonna take if the Rams stay at 26. This is a pick. I think they definitely go defense. And you saw last year with Saquon Barkley, he destroyed that team last year. They need a guy on that defense that could stop the run. And I think the guy who could do that who could help do that is Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. I have him dropping. This definitely could be a steal in the draft. I have the Rams taking Jahad Campbell out of Alabama with the 26th pick. Justin, what do you got the Rams doing at 26?
Yeah, I got to go second here. Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky, the cornerback here. And I think, could be a long-term kind of starter in the NFL level. Think the Rams kind of, I think he's somebody too that could, um, I think he played a lot of zone and man coverage too at Kentucky, so he's kind of got that variety. I think he's pretty solid in both areas as well. So he does miss a lot of tackles at times, but I think with the Rams here, they definitely need some help defensively. I almost went with an edge rusher as well here, but decided to go cornerback here with the Rams.
Already at number 27, we got the Ravens, and they don't have a ton of needs, but I think a big need is someone who could help with the pass defense, because their pass defense was definitely a weakness. They were like 29th in pass defense last year. I know they went corner last year with Nate Wiggins, but I got them going corner again. I got them going corner, and I got them drafting Azare. Let me see, did I get the first name right? I got them drafting the corner out of Florida State, Azare Thomas, with that pick. I just think they need help with their pass defense, and I think adding another corner is going to help that. So, Justin, who do you got the Ravens taking at 27?
I got him going Walter Nolan here, the defensive lineman out of Ole Miss, and he's somebody that's athletic enough, with his athleticism too and his size. You can kind of play multiple positions across the defensive line. So he's somebody too that I think he was rated the number 5 run stopper last year in the FBS, per Football Focus. So I think somebody too that it's another guy could kind of help Baltimore here in the defensive line. I almost you know went secondary here as well. But I think Nolan, if he's still there at 27, might be the best defensive player on the board there. So I got him going defensive line here.
Already with the 28th pick, I think the Lions right now they have very few needs on their team. But what you saw last year with the Lions is the injuries to their defensive line really hurt this team, especially when they got into the postseason against the Commanders. That's why I got them going defense. I know they still have McNeil and they got Aiden Hutchinson, but they're both coming off injuries. That's why I got the best player available and a guy who kind of fit a need. I got Derek Harmon going 28th overall to the Lions. Justin, what do you got the Lions doing at 28?
I am going Gary Zebo out of North Dakota State. Didn't tear off of the lineman, but in 2024 he played left tackle. He's also in college played the right tackle spot, the left guard spot, and he even played center. So I think more than likely at the NFL he's probably gonna play more inside. But I think too, he's very good sound defense, very good, technically sound as an off the lineman. He's another guy too. He's a very smart football guy. Team first, locker room leader. So somebody won a lot of football at North Dakota State. It's a powerhouse at the FCS level. So I think somebody come in right away and help just add another piece there to that offensive line.
Yeah, listen. You did get. I knew you were going to get your. Knew you were going to get your FCS guy in there, but a lot of draft boards have him going even higher. So a lot of draft boards have him rising. So that definitely could potentially be a good pick there for the Lions at 28. Now moving on to the Commanders at 29. I feel like they need help on their defensive line, especially at edge rusher. But I think if they take an edge, they'd be reaching a little bit. What was the biggest issue with the Commanders? They could not stop the Eagles' run game and any of their matchups last year. Any of their matchups. I think they take a good run stuffer here. And at 29, I got them taking Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. He's a really good run player. I got him taking Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. What do you got the Commanders doing at 29, Justin?
I got him going edge here. I got him getting Michael Williams, the edge guy out of Georgia. You mentioned it addresses one of their bigger needs here. He's got a lot of physical gifts to be a really good pass rusher here. I know you had him going a lot higher. And he's somebody too that's gonna be one of the best. If he's still at 29, he's gonna be one of the best defensive guys on the board, maybe one of the best kind of just on the board in general. So somebody here too as well. They give Washington another pass rusher here, and again with what the Eagles did last year with their pass rushers, you get a couple good ones like the Eagles had. Makes you really, really dangerous there. So I got Washington going with Michael Williams.
With the 30th pick, and that is the Bills. And I feel like, they have a little bit of a hole at safety, and Starks pretty much matches the value of that pick. And that's why I'm going to go with the Georgia guy here. And I think you can't go wrong with Georgia guys. You see the Eagles with Georgia guys, Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean. Georgia guys are going to help you. Georgia guys help you. You got to go with these Georgia guys. So I'm going to go with Malachi here. I'm going Malachi Starks. I got Malachi Starks going 30th overall the Bills. Justin, what do you got the Bills doing at 30?
Yeah, same pick here with Malachi Starks. I think that Bills needs somebody on the back end, very reliable tackler, and really good ball skills as well. And I think he's like a perfect third down safety here as well. So I got the Bills going with Starks, and yeah, you can't go wrong with the Georgia guys as long as they're not dry. Issues they have in that area,
exactly.
but
As I said with the Eagles with Jalen Carter, can't go wrong with the Georgia guys.
Yeah, no, you can't. Last couple of years they've produced a lot of really good defensive players on that side of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. We will now move to the Chiefs at 31. And if you watch the Super Bowl, the offensive line was a problem. They had, Joe Tooney did a really good job playing that position, but now Joe Tooney is gone, and they lost him. The offensive line was a real problem. They only signed a guy from the 49ers, but he's an average guy at tackle. But I think the Chiefs absolutely need O-line help. If you watch the Super Bowl, if in the Super Bowl we saw it, how that O-line got destroyed. And that's why I got the Chiefs taking an offensive lineman here at 31. Again, another pronunciation, correct me if I'm wrong. Josh Conerly out of Oregon.
Connerly.
Conerly. I got them taking Josh Conerly out of Oregon with the 31st pick. Justin, what do you got the Chiefs doing at 31?
You got to go same pick here. The tackle out of Oregon. You kind of saw what happened in the Super Bowl there, and he allowed the lowest pressure rate in the conference last year. He was like 1.6%, and only allowed 2 sacks over 1,000 career pass blocking snaps. So he's very polished right now, and he's a better pass protector right now than he's a run blocker. But that's something he could kind of develop here. So I got him going with Connerly here out of Oregon to help that offensive line out.
Alrighty, and to wrap it up with these defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, I don't like saying it as a Giants fan, but the defending champion Eagles with the number 32 overall pick. I look at the guard position. Tyler Booker's, for me, is still there. He matches the value of that pick. I think it's pretty obvious for me. I got them going Tyler Booker with the number 32 overall pick. Justin, what do you got the Eagles doing at 32?
I'm going to go with Shamari Stewart here out of Texas A&M, the edge guy. I know the Eagles kind of lost a couple guys on the defense side of the ball here. Stewart kind of brings another he's an edge guy, and he's got a really high ceiling right now, and he's got a ton of athletic traits that can make him a really, really good pass rusher. So I got – and right now he's a better run stopper than a pass rusher, but again, with time development, the Eagles done a really good job with that with their pass rusher. So I can see Tim developing to another really good pass rusher that the Eagles have for the next couple of years.
I feel like no matter what the Eagles do, Howie Roseman will get that right, and that's why he is the best GM in the NFL. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Sports Talk with R&J. But we're going to be back in about 15 minutes. Talking about the Lakers evening their series with the T-Wolves and the rest of the NBA playoffs. So make sure you tune in for that.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.